Hey there. You gonna jump me again? No? Well, of course I'm disappointed. No, that's obviously... There's a lot more to a relationship. Though I will say I find that a very pleasant part. How are you? How was class? You don't want to talk about it? Okay. I'm gonna be honest, my boyfriending instincts are telling me that the fact you say you don't want to talk about it is a reason I should kind of press a little bit to make sure everything is okay, but I'm going to bravely fight against these instincts and instead say, what do you want to do? You want to not talk about it and just hear me talk? Okay, well, I can talk, as you may or may not have realised. Okay, how about you cuddle up to me and I can tell you more about football. Yes, football. We're not doing this again. You're forbidden from ever using the S word in my presence. Thank you. Now come over here. Yes, sir. Don't mock me. Get your pretty little rear end over here. Thank you. Okay, so talk football. Okay, well, I can tell you about the time I went to a World Cup game. So my uncle got tickets in the raffle, but he couldn't go. So my dad bought the tickets off him. This is 2006 World Cup. And he took me with him, obviously. Otherwise the story wouldn't be about me going to a game, would it? So the way it works is you get the tickets way in advance, right? So we had a ticket for quarter-final, C or whatever. And you've got no idea what teams are going to be there until the tournament actually happens. And the teams finish where they're going to finish in the groups. And you see what you get. So you could get, Poland versus Sweden. And it could be like, oh, well, okay. But we did not get Poland versus Sweden. We got France versus Brazil. Now, Brazil have won more World Cups than any other country, and France have a pretty damn good record in their own right. So this was two really heavyweights coming against each other, and we were lucky enough to have tickets for it. I remember the first thing I really remember about that game was walking up to the stadium before we even got there. And the atmosphere in the streets, just for miles around the place, there's people waving French and Brazil flags. The two sets of fans were really nice to each other. There was no hostilities or anything. It was all a wonderful celebration of a sport we all loved and countries' dreams of doing well. It was fantastic. Now, obviously, I'm not French and I'm not Brazilian, so I didn't really have a horse in the race. But, in FIFA, all the Brazilians were rated 90 or whatever, and I think Ronaldinho was playing in this game, and Kaká and players like that. So I kind of decided, okay, I'll root for Brazil because my dad wants to root for France, and it's nice to have kind of varying interests, I guess. But yeah, so we walk up to the game, people blaring car horns, allez, 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 waving the French flags out the car. The Brazilians are all kind of colourfully dressed up in their country's colours, the flags as well. It's fantastic. We eventually get into the stadium with amazing atmosphere. It was in Frankfurt, I believe, that game. And the game itself wasn't that great, despite all the star power on the pitch. It was only a 1-0 win for France. The thing is, one thing about that game was unbelievably good. And it was the play of a player you may have heard of for very different reasons, because I know that for non-football people, this guy is really famous predominantly for something else. This player's name is Zinedine Zidane, and I'm guessing if you have heard the name, it's because he headbutted a guy during the World Cup final. It was this World Cup. It was a terrible moment, really, when he headbutted a guy in the final, because he was the best player of the tournament. France should have won the tournament. Italy ended up winning the tournament. It was a shame, but this game was the opposite of that. This game, and a pitch full of, really, really good, skillful Brazilian players, he made it look like they were all children wanting a seat at the grown-ups table. He made it look like he was the only person on the pitch who knew how to play this game. It was unbelievable. I mean, he's holding people off, he's flicking the ball over people's heads, he's getting the other side of them. He's retiring at the end of this tournament. I always remember the commentator, I've watched the match back sometimes because I was there, and because it made me, I think, fall in love with that type of midfield player. It's still my favourite player to this day to watch, is these kind of old, 35-ish guys who can't run anymore and yet seem to be the first to absolutely everything, are always in the right place, are always putting great passes through. There's these geniuses of the game, and I could list, Xavi and Pirlo and Clarence Seedorf at the end of his career, Luka Modric. These guys are just so fun to watch because they run half the amount everyone else does to get twice as much out of themselves. It's just, they're so intelligent with how they play. So skillful, so smart in how they play. Zidane was all of that and more that night. He was making a fool out of the Brazilian players. He was telling the French, just pointing where the French guys to go, and 20 seconds later the ball, he gets the ball back and pings the ball to them or whatever. It's unreal. And the reaction of other people as well, because everyone knew that they were seeing something really, really special in that game. They were seeing a guy. And this is where I started to get really pissed at people who think that football is about statistics. Oh, how much XG did he generate? Piss off, you absolute moron. Doesn't matter at all. Because if you watch that game, I don't care what stats tell you, that's an all-time performance. It's one of the great World Cup performances of any player. It's obvious to any football person. It's just phenomenal to watch. And again, it's the touch, the control. Because here's another thing. These are the best players in the world running at each other at quick pace. If me or you went onto that pitch, everything would be way too fast for you. Way too fast. The ball would be fizzed into you, and within what would feel like a millisecond for us, it's taken off you by this big strong guy who then runs past people. And, the pace of the game is so hard to explain to people. And this guy made it look like it was being played in slow motion. And again, he's making these grown men, these athletes at the top of their trade, just look completely inadequate. And I've grown up with that memory. And funnily enough, he did create the winning goal that was from a free kick. Free kick puts the ball into a great area for Thierry Henry to score at the back post. Remember, he runs around pointing at the crowd, pointed to our section as well. Big cheer from the French fans, obviously. And the game ends 1-0, but again, in the stats sheet, that game would look unremarkable. 1-0 for France, not all that many shots. It would look like a kind of normal World Cup match, and that's because the stat sheet doesn't tell you enough. Because the stat sheet doesn't say that night that one guy was an absolute star. That he played in a way which most people will only ever be able to play in their dreams. That he inspired millions and millions of people watching that day, including me. And no headbutt's ever going to take that away. Anyway, that's my memory of that World Cup game more than anything else. Is that guy being that good, making it look so easy when it's so hard? You seem to be a little bit happier than you were when you came in. Football talk really distracts you that much, huh? Good to know. I can do it more often. Or is it just me that distracts you? Ah, just me then. Well, hey, you'll passively learn about football along the way. I'll take the victory. Did I ever mention how meeting you is the best thing that's happened to me probably ever? Because if I didn't, I felt like mentioning it. I don't know. It's almost like bad days at college aside, but it's pretty calm for us at the moment, right? Everything's going well for us. Things are going, despite your bad day, well at college. These are the good times. These are the times we look back on 10 years ago and say it was amazing, right? And I guess I just want us to realize that now. And to live now knowing that, yeah, there are going to be other great times ahead. There's also going to be difficult times ahead. And let's make the memories we want to remember in those hard times now. And that doesn't have to mean doing the most crazy, wild things in the world. It can just be cuddling up to each other and me talking about football for 10 minutes and you just relaxing and letting the stress of the day wash away. I'm more than happy for that to be a sweet little memory for us. I guess I'm just really looking forward to every day that has you in it. That's all. And yes, I know I'm a bleeding heart romantic. Ha 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 ha. Well, I don't see that as a bad thing. And let's be honest about it, neither do you. Anyway, you look half asleep. If you want to go for a nap, I have absolutely no problem just holding you here. Yeah. Sleep well then. I'll wake you up in a little while, okay?